All the way back, I don't know what the deal is about it, but all the way back when I was growing up, I have always loved movies. There's just something that is captivating about them for me. The experience, the anticipation of like a really good story, sometimes getting in there and leaving with just something that you can't put to words, but visually it's stuck in your mind. And I'll probably never fully appreciate what it is that the directors are trying to do. I don't know that I'm that artistic. I don't know that I'm ever going to catch all the colors and the vibrancy that all the graphic artists are doing. I certainly won't catch everything that the true audiophiles are hearing as they're putting into it. But I know that I'm going to come away with an experience. I'm going to come away just wowed. I'm going to come away with feeling moved. My son and Jonah and I, we went to see the Odyssey last week. And because you have to buy all your tickets in advance now, even though we were running 10 minutes late, we didn't have to worry. We had our seats. It was already there, right? We just walked in and we sat down. But back in the day, that was not the case. My teenage friends and I, we would show up at every movie like 30 minutes early just to make sure that we got to sit in the best seats, which are always the worn out seats. I don't know what that's about, but we always really wanted those seats. And we would show up and we would just sit down and we would visit and just enjoy each other's company until it got started. And then, of course, you got the advertisements for the popcorn and the drinks that suddenly made you thirsty and hungry. And then you get the previews, which when they're really good previews, you completely forget what it is that you're actually there to see. And then it flips into that moment where the lights begin to dim. And all of a sudden the sound starts to fill with those just amazing fanfares from the movie production companies, right? Remember these things that come on, the Universal Studios groups that come on and they start to make the sound? Well, we were those obnoxious guys, teenage boys, and I know it's hard to believe. We were those obnoxious guys who, right when all of that would happen, we would, way before the Minions ever did this with the Universal Studios fanfare, my teenage friends and I would sing along with every one of those fanfares at full voice to the horror or at times the entertainment of anybody else that was in the room. In fact, one time there was this guy that we got to the finish of it, and there was a guy on the other side of the theater. He hollered out, he goes, "Y'all were much better last week at the such and such movie that we were at." It was really funny. We were like, oh my gosh, am I proud or do I shrink in my seat? So beyond Universal Studios fanfare, beyond the 20th Century Fox, beyond the Paramount Pictures, there was one other thing that my friends and I were obnoxiously participating in. When it started, we would stand up, this time very serious. We'd stand up, very serious to help to conduct and to lead into the power of this amazing thing. And when it was finished, because it was so powerful, it was like we started cheering, like the umpire just said, "Play ball." It's called the deep note. Yep, and if you don't know the name, I am 99% sure you will know the sound. It's so good. It's so good. This now legendary sound, this experiential sound, was gifted to the ears of humanity in 1983 as the start and the premiere of then Star Wars Episode 6, Empire, or Return of the Jedi. You got not just one amazing thing, you got two amazing things. And it was composed by then Lucasfilm sound engineer, Dr. James Andy Moorer, to be the sound trademark of THX. Now later, many years later, in 2018, they released a picture of the original score that was actually written out with all of the notes. And it was fascinating to be able to see this. And here's what's interesting. Sometimes when you learn about what something is made of, when it got put together, it ruins it. It takes the mystery away. It takes the wow away. It's less magical. Like pepperoni. When I watched pepperoni being made, I didn't eat it for like a year. But for whatever reason, when I saw it, it just created all the more awe for me. it filled me with all the more wonder. For those of you who may not be as familiar with reading music, let me just try to walk you through something. And all the music people in the room, bear with me, right? I'm just going to try to go with the basics here. All the lines that are going left and right, all of those together, when you put that in there, and that's where the notes are going, that's called a staff. And on that staff, there are lines and there are spaces. And so each of those lines and each of the spaces between the lines represents a particular note. So when a little circle gets placed on that spot, it's calling for a particular sound or a particular pitch. And when you gather all of those circles on different lines and different spaces and you stack them on top of each other all at the same time, that's called a chord. Now, the distance between a particular circle and how far apart they are, that actually can create a feeling. Like sometimes when a chord is played, it makes us feel, wonderful. It's like appealing. Sometimes it makes us feel like there's something ominous about to happen. Sometimes it makes us feel victorious and resolute. And then more often than not, if two notes get placed right beside each other, like one's on a line, one is on the circle right, or the space right above it, that's something called dissonance. And when dissonance happens, we feel anxious. We feel like something isn't quite right yet. Maurer composed the deep note with 30 voices in mind, all spread across and leading up to that final 11-note chord. Now, those 11 swooshing lines, the ones that are dipping or rising, so if you look at those, the shape of them, as they're rising and falling, those path that voice will take from the very beginning all the way to the end, it would take them through this long, continuous sound. This sliding or gliding sound from one pitch to the final is called a glissando. And for me, this picture, when I saw it, it really helped me all the more to hear what was happening inside of that, to be able to experience it more. You see the traffic jam, like right there in the middle. It looks like a spaghetti bowl where all these lines are going every which way. Those voices gliding past each other, creating many different moments of dissonance. And what feels like a lot of noise. It feels like a lot of tension and anxiousness. And just trying to follow one line is like, you remember in the magazines back in the day, or the back of the cereal box where you had to try to follow one line and try to get it all the way to the end and not lose the path? It's hard. Now, if we take all of this together, the whole picture, the whole experience of those 30 seconds, if we take the deep note like an experience, if you're like me, you hear it and you want to say, play it again, play it again. But if we focus on just one part, and I know this is a little fuzzy, but go with me. If you focus on just this one place, and that's all you played, if you heard that, if you experienced that, we would likely be crying out, make it stop. Make it stop. And I can't help but look at this image and think about how it creates an illustration of life. You're going along and all of a sudden you feel like you just dropped. Like everything has just come out from underneath you and you're free falling. And you don't know how to be able to take back control. People are flying past you seemingly to do fine, but you can't seem to get anything right at work. You can't get anything right with parenting. Your health is a wreck. Your finances, oh my gosh. And relationships, you can't keep up with any relationships. Or maybe you're going along fine when suddenly the tension and the pressure begin to build and the stress is just rising and rising when everybody else seems to be calm, but not for you. You just feel like you are getting pushed to the limit and all you want to do is relax. How many of you are feeling mid-glissando today? How many of you are dealing with this? And when you're mid-glissando, don't you just want to be able to say, God, what is going on? God, where are you? What do I do? Help. And it's just like nothing is where it needs to be. Like there's no recovering. Like there's never going to be any healing. Like there's never going to be any more hope. And all the noise, all the chaos makes us feel so lost, so alone, so forgotten. The very beginning of the Bible, the very first 2 verses, it says what I would argue theologically is one of the most profound and needed things. Right there at the beginning of the Bible, it says, in the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was formless, void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God, the Spirit of God, swept over the face of the waters. In the beginning, before there was heaven and earth, there was God. Before there was a void, before there was darkness, before the deep, there was God. Before there was any chaos, there was God sweeping over the waters. Before the glissando, there was God. Before all the pressure started to build for you, before the bottom felt like it fell out, before you were free falling, before the fear, before the stress and the anxiety, God is here. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is found in the book called 1 Kings. There's a guy in there that's named Elijah, and he has been trying really hard to live a faithful life. Really, he's been trying to do everything that God is asking him to do. He's trying to do all the right things, and yet it's been hard. Lately, his life has been in shambles. And I imagine him thinking like we do. You do everything right, and yet life is still full of troubles. In fact, he's really afraid because there's somebody that's really angry with him. Have you ever had somebody that's like really angry with you? I'm not talking about like a mom and dad when you got in trouble as a kid. I'm just saying, have you ever been around someone who was really angry? He was afraid. He was afraid for his life. He was hiding. He was fearful. He was tired. And honestly, he was just wondering if life was worth it. He reached this point where he's like, do I even need to be on this earth anymore? He finally falls asleep, and I imagine it's just from sheer exhaustion. And an angel comes to him and begins to encourage him to just do the next thing. To just do the next thing, to be able to do the next thing to care for himself, to get up and eat, to get up and drink. And from that encouragement, he goes on to this further journey until he finally stops again, and he's fearful, and he hides in a cave. And it's there he hears the words from the Lord saying, "Why are you here? What are you doing here?" Elijah does what many of us would do in that situation when we would just want to give up. He starts whining. He starts giving every excuse, every reason, every why. But immediately there was a voice from God again explaining to him, "Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Now there was a great wind so strong that it was splitting mountains and breaking rocks in pieces before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a sound of sheer silence. And immediately Elijah knew that God was there. Not in the wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but the still small voice. The thing that was there before any of this stole his attention away. The presence that was there before the noise, before the chaos ever even started. How many of us have had our hearts stolen from God because it's taken the attention? How many of us have gotten so distracted by the winds of change that keep coming at us, threatening to split us apart? How many of us have been deeply distracted because it feels like the world is shaking and we can't just get our feet underneath us? How many of us have been dealing with the intensity, the burning intensity of stress, and we're just so pulled away that we have been stolen away from God? How many of us have lost sight of God because we have lost our grip on the presence that was there when it all ever began? How many of us are running or hiding? How many of us are fearful and tired and honestly a step away from just giving up on life? I pray that the Holy Spirit is whispering into your ear right now with a still small voice, encouraging you to just do the next thing. Silence can be deafening, but when it happens, we realize that God has been there the whole time. That we were never alone. We were never abandoned. We were never forgotten. You are not forgotten. Mid-glissando. It'd be pretty easy to just assume that there's no resolution. Mid-glissando, it'd be pretty easy to see that there's no hope, there's no pulling out of this free fall and ever seeing the rising tension to stop. What we fail to see, what I fail so often to see, is that in those moments of challenge, if I look to God, if I listen for God, I realize that God has been there the whole time. I feel strengthened all the more from the fighting. From the fighting. I know you don't like to go through the challenges, but sometimes when we go through it, it strengthens us to do things that we didn't know we could do, to be a part of something we didn't know we were capable of being a part. And because of the wrestling, because of the stretching, because of the challenges, when we seek God's direction, we find that in places we didn't even know we could reach, that we're there. In the letter to the Philippians, Paul knew that it was not always going to be easy living, that life could get hard, and that he begins to slip in this piece of encouragement for them, which I believe is not just for them, I think it's for us, like on the every day, need to hear this. He said, I am confident of this. Sometimes when you're not confident in yourself, you need someone to be able to be confident for you. Paul is saying, I am confident of this, that the one who began a good work among you will bring it to completion by the day of Jesus Christ. God was there in the beginning. God is with you in the chaos, mid-glissando, and God will lead you out. That is grace. God will bring to completion the good work that God began in you. The deep note swells from the simple little sound to chords that energize your soul. From a safe little range, it goes across multiple, almost 5 different octaves, and leaves us feeling righteous, feels powerful. It leaves us feeling triumphant. And when we stop being so focused on me, this is the best part. When we stop realizing that this is about me, that I've got this thing going wrong, when we realize that God is with us and we calm down for a minute and we look around and we see all these other people doing the same thing, realizing that God is with them, when we do this together, we create a powerful, triumphant sound that even teenage boys stand up and want to be a part of directing that love into the world. Thanks be to God. Play ball. Amen.